Do you think there's anything to the possibility of Democrats in committee just not even legitimizing this nominee and not sitting in on a confirmation hearing that happens next month, so to say?
I don't know. I would guess no. I mean, I think it's a legitimate move, but I think they have firmly decided, it seems, and you can see this with Joe Biden, and you can see it with all the plan is, and I mean, I guess I can understand the logic here. I think it's a huge missed opportunity. I think it's a classic mistake that the Democratic establishment is making, which is people don't like to see any conflict and there's no value in it. So what we're going to do is just really quietly be upset. And Joe Biden is not going to, I mean, I do think that there is very little chance that a threat of court packing will do anything. I think I would put that at around 0%. So I can understand why Biden's not necessarily embracing that. Keep your powder dry. Probably can only hurt him in the context of the election. I don't think that there are some low information voters who are sitting on the sidelines who are looking for something that's going to inspire them to vote for Joe Biden, and him saying court packing is the thing that's going to do it. Right? I mean, I think if he said you're going to have health care and it's going to be free, that might do it. If he was to say like federal $15 minimum wage, that might do it. But I just don't think that a voter who is not terribly inclined to vote is sitting there going like, what we really need to do is curb the authority, the jurisdiction of the courts and to court pack simultaneously. I just don't think that's happening.
Right.
So I don't see any value there. But I do see value in the Democrats putting up a bigger fight than they have. There's two issues here that I think, we had a missed opportunity in the passing of this continuing resolution. Nancy Pelosi said it was only the exuberant left that wanted Nancy Pelosi to hold off on the continuing resolution as a leverage point. That may be the case. There's other parts of the left that want to save the Affordable Care Act. And there was an opportunity for Nancy Pelosi to have done that with the continuing resolution, and she didn't do it. And I think there was a sense that that there would be a little bit more time before they passed that continuing resolution. I think they pushed that through quickly because they didn't want the Democrats to sort of like glom onto this idea. Right now, as you know, there was a case out of Texas that challenged the individual mandate as being unconstitutional. And it was done so on the grounds that it was originally considered a tax by the Supreme Court, and that's why it was found to be constitutional. The Congress, when it was controlled by the Republicans, got rid of the penalty, essentially the tax associated with the individual mandate. So it was a taxless tax, which Texas and some other states claimed was unconstitutional. A district judge who was literally a former Republican staffer deemed it unconstitutional, said the whole law is unconstitutional. That went up to a appellate court. They found that it is unconstitutional, but they sent it back down to the district judge to find out if that unconstitutional provision would sink the entire Affordable Care Act or whether it was severable. Can you take this one part of a law and say this part is unconstitutional, but the rest of the law is fine? Now, that's a fairly obvious finding because Congress made that determination. Congress said that the entire law is not reliant on the mandate, and they did so by making the mandate zero. The penalty zero. So there was no mandate. Congress, in their action, they did not repeal the Affordable Care Act. They only repealed the mandate. And so they basically said, they repealed the mandate effectively by saying that there is no penalty in not adhering to the mandate. So nobody took this case seriously, but it did go up to the Supreme Court, because when you have a circuit court that determines that something is unconstitutional, that the Supreme Court has said is constitutional, that ends up, those are the cases that they take. The assumption was that John Roberts was going to rule with the 4 left of center justices and say, maybe there's no even standing. Like, who is harmed by a mandate where there's no penalty for the mandate? Like, how do you go and make an argument in a court of law that you have standing, that you've been harmed in some way by this? If you don't, you literally don't have to pay. So people thought maybe it would be punted for standing or just general ridiculousness. But now there is not 4 left of center justices. There are 3, and there are 5 left of, or I should say far right of center justices. Even if Roberts was to side with the 3 left of center justices, it would then go down to the appellate court. That would hold that it was unconstitutional, and they would wait still on this former Republican staffer / district judge to inform them whether he found it severable. And then it would work its way back up the Supreme Court, but very easily could perceive this all as, and assume this all would end in the ACA being trashed. Nancy Pelosi could have saved us all the trouble by including in the continuing resolution like a 1-line amendment that would have basically rid us or done a full repeal of the individual mandate, right? It exists still, but it has a penalty of $0, which is not really a mandate, but the shell of it's there. They could have done a 1 line that said, we repeal the individual mandate. It's part of the Affordable Care Act, the end. And the Republicans, the idea that they would have shut down the government, in other words, not passed that bill that passed the House, that they wouldn't pass it in the Senate because of that 1 line, is obviously ridiculous. You're not going to have Mitch McConnell saying we're going to shut down the government because they're getting rid of the individual mandate. No. However, had Pelosi put that in there and the Senate had passed it and the president had signed it, the individual mandate would be repealed. Then the entire case is moot because it doesn't exist anymore. She didn't do it. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's perhaps the threat to the Affordable Care Act is will drive voters out. We now know that COVID could probably be considered a pre-existing condition. I would be surprised if it wasn't. We know there are long-term implications for a lot of people with this. And to the extent that we don't know, insurance companies, they have the ability to reinstitute discriminating against people with pre-existing conditions, they'll take that opportunity. So maybe it was just let the Republicans own it. We shall see. Missed opportunity, one would think, There are many things that the Democrats could be doing, unlikely to stop the hearings and the confirmation of a Supreme Court justice, but with the great possibility of indicating to the American public that there's a problem here.
That's the thing that I feel like they always miss doing, is I don't think they signify to people what the actual stakes are.
Absolutely. They do not believe in the value of losing a fight. They do not believe in the value of showing the American public not just that they are willing to fight on their behalf, even if it means almost certain defeat. They also don't understand the value of communicating the stakes to people. Right? I mean, isn't it like the whole William Wallace thing, right? Where, he dies and yells freedom at the end. That ultimately, like, that becomes the watchword for everybody who fought on after him. I mean, if the Democrats were to engage in the fight, they are so afraid of coming off as caring about politics and how people are impacted by these things to the rest of the population who barely tune in, except for the week and a half after the week and a half leading up to the polls. They are so afraid of coming off as being fighters that they miss the entire opportunity to communicate to people what the stakes are here. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Jeff Hauser has a great piece in the New Republic. He's from the Revolving Door Project. And he wrote it, I guess he wrote it yesterday, what a defiant Democratic Party looks like. He readily admits that it's unlikely you're going to be able to stop this, but you could slow the process down. You could drag it out. You can't do, Mr. Smith goes to Washington, whatever it is, some long talking filibuster. It's a 3-day, I think, window on debate. But he talks about you could object to unanimous consent in the Senate and force the Republicans, all of them, to show up with a 51-vote quorum to conduct any business. That would slow operations down. Plus, anybody know how many incumbents Republicans have versus Democrats? It's like 2 times as many that are running for re-election. It would be pretty nice to have those people off the campaign trail when they need to be out there as much as they can. You could also start to send up impeachment from the House. You could impeach Bill Barr, make the Senate deal with that. Mitch McConnell will get it out of the Senate. We may not even have hearings, right? They could just vote on it. No. But then you do Louis DeJoy, says Hauser. And Alex Azar. Anybody happy with the way the coronavirus response? Something like 65, 70% of the American public think it's problematic. You just keep throwing these up there. I don't think there's a huge contingency out there going like, Democrats are just not letting the Republicans have normal Senate procedure in these days. They're being really cumbersome. You could have the House Foreign Affairs Committee passing war powers resolutions for the dozen or so conflicts for which there is no congressional authorization that we're involved in. That is also, and the reason why you would do that and the reason why you do impeachment is both of those are privileged, which means that the Senate has to dispense of them before they move on. Now, none of this is likely to prevent the seating of this justice before or certainly after the election. But again, it is a way to communicate to the American public, this is bad what they're doing. And we're doing something extraordinary to prevent them from doing it. And if you don't communicate that by action, how can you justify it by lip service? It just doesn't work.